Welcome to the RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen. In this kitchen, you can bake a cake in 3 minutes. And in this kitchen, the dishes are scraped, washed, and dried electronically. They even put themselves away. Even the floor is cleaned electronically. So welcome to this wonderful new world of push-button cooking, cleaning, and homemaking. Now this is what we call our planning center. And this is the push-button control panel. In other words, this is the heart and the brain of the RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen. On the control panel, we have a series of buttons that operates various parts of the kitchen by a process even more simple than dialing your old-fashioned telephone. For example, there's a button that turns on a built-in color television set that brings entertainment into your miracle kitchen of the future. Other buttons select recipes, request an inventory of food stocks, select food from storage, or complete the automatic meal from the Magic Meal Maker. Besides the built-in color television set, you will also see a small TV monitor. And by pressing another button on the panel, you will be able to see what's going on in the nursery or who's at the door. In other words, you can sit in your RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen and keep tabs on the whole house. This same TV set, incidentally, receives regular television programs. Or, if you wanted to remind yourself of something to do later in the day, such as call the butcher at 2 o'clock, you merely speak your message into this transmitter, set the clock for the appointed time, and then at 2 o'clock, the loudspeakers will remind you of it. And this, of course, serves as your own private telephone. Now here we have an inventory panel of beverages, fruits, vegetables, meat, fish, and so forth. And instead of searching around on your pantry shelves for food, now you merely make your selection with a touch of the finger. For example, right now, I think I'd like a can of frozen orange juice. Now you will notice that a wave of the hand lowers a special bottle cooling refrigerator. This chills the bottles and then maintains them at the desired temperature. And you will also notice that the entire unit can be raised or lowered by merely waving your hand. Now if you prefer ice in your beverages, the RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen has an inexhaustible supply of crystal clear ice, and you can regulate the size you want, from powder fine to the size of a regular ice cube. Now popular beverages such as iced tea in the summertime can be stored in bulk, or you could store ice-cold milk, piping hot coffee, and get just as much as you want by pressing the dispenser, and just as hot or as cold as you want it. Now all of the foods in your RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen are stored at just the right degree of temperature and humidity. For example, this is what we call our special dry food storage drawer. And again you will notice that a mere wave of the hand elevates this drawer, thus eliminating any back-breaking efforts on the part of the housewife. See, it's no longer necessary to stoop way over and dig down into the bottom of the bin for such things as potatoes or onions. In fact, all of the foods in the RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen are stored within easy reach, because all of the storage compartments can be raised or lowered to just the right level. Now, have you noticed that there seems to be no sink in our RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen? Now, as a matter of fact, there certainly is, and it's a very unusual sink, concealed right underneath our movable countertop. Now, we all know the discomforts that can be had from working at a sink that's too low for us. But now, thanks to the custom adjustment of the RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen, it's possible for you to have a sink adjusted to you individually, whether you're tiny, typical, or tall. And here's a marvel every woman will really appreciate. It's a unit to help in the preparation of meats, fruits, and vegetables. You merely put the fruit or the vegetable in here, and then by pressing the proper selector, it will peel, slice, dice, core, and so forth. And the wastes are disposed of automatically. Well, now let's see how we would go about preparing an item in the RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen. First, we would select a recipe by pressing a button on the control panel of the planning center. Then the recipe would appear on a special screen above the countertop. Let's suppose we're going to bake a cake. Just a wave of the hand lowers a completely integrated mixing unit. On the mixing unit is a control panel where you can select the instrument you'll need for mixing, blending, whipping, churning, kneading, and so forth. Now, of course, in the case of the mixer, you will notice that the mixing blades are lowered into just the right position. Then when you have finished your job, the entire unit goes back into the wall where it will be automatically cleaned. And by the way, one section of the unit can be removed so that it can be used as a portable self-powered mixer. And here's truly one of the most outstanding features of the RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen. By merely pressing a button, a self-propelled serving cart appears. Now this cart takes right to the table your dishes, silverware, and everything necessary for the setting of your table. You see, it operates on electrical tracks which are laid under the floor. And then it follows a preset pattern to go wherever you want it to go. Of course, the dishes in the cart are absolutely clean because when the cart is in its place in the wall, it is also an automatic dishwasher and a food waste disposer. And then, of course, after your meal is over, the dirty dishes and silverware can be loaded right at the table. And then the cart will take them back to its place in the wall where the waste will be disposed of, and they will be automatically rinsed, washed, and dried. And another thing to remember is that if you should decide you prefer to use your very best china for dinner that evening, you merely push a button on the control panel. The cart will then return to its place in the wall and exchange your everyday dishes for a rack containing your very best ones. Now here's a special salad freshener drawer with its own degree of temperature and humidity for the storage of fruits and vegetables. Then right underneath the salad freshener drawer, we have a special freezing compartment which is excellent for the quick freezing of leftovers as well as for the storage of frozen foods. Now, are you wondering where the refrigerators are? Well, here they are, 1, 2, 3, concealed in the cabinet. And just a wave of the hand lowers the refrigerator. Each section has its own special degree of temperature and humidity, and special insulation eliminates the need for bulky doors and walls. Because of a new cooling process, there is no frost at all. And out here is our mobile cooking unit, which is controlled from the planning center. Now it operates in the same way as does the self-propelled serving cart, so it will travel any place you desire in your backyard. Well, next we have some of the most amazing features of the RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen. Now, in those days when time is too short or when your bridge game has been a little bit too long, you still can prepare a well-balanced meal in just a matter of seconds with the least amount of attention. And there's a wide variety from which to choose. Tonight, for example, you might want some chicken a la king, carrots and peas, a few French fries, and maybe a cupcake for dessert. Well, after the selection has been made, it will be dropped from a refrigerated area and will have been moved into the cooking or cooling compartment of the Magic Meal Maker. Then in just a matter of minutes, your meal is ready to be served at the table in a very easy process. Now, next to the meal maker, we have the electronic oven. Now, of course, the electronic oven cooks electronically. So the food is hot, but your kitchen isn't. And it cooks very fast. Why, a cake can be baked in a matter of 3 minutes. And a leg of lamb can be roasted in about 7 minutes. And a bacon and egg breakfast takes just about 90 seconds. The cooking and the timing, temperatures are all automatically controlled to assure perfect results every time. But best of all, the electronic oven is self-cleaning. So, of course, that eliminates one of the messiest oven chores that women have. Next to the oven, we have an electronic grill. And in this, it's possible to broil a 3-pound steak in just a matter of 2 minutes. Now, getting back to the planning center, notice this semicircular surface which surrounds it. It's accessible from any part of the kitchen, and it's actually a cooking surface, as well as an area for informal dining. Now, when you place this special cooking utensil over one of the cooking areas, the food inside quickly heats to the right temperature. However, the cooking area itself and the outside of the cooking utensil remain cool, so this doubles nicely as a serving dish. And to eliminate the last of the household drudgeries, we have a storage drawer for pots and pans. This serves not only as a storage drawer, but also as an automatic washer and food waste disposer. It's used for storage, scraping, washing, and drying. Now notice the laundry area on the other side of the dividing counter. In the laundry area, you see the new RCA Whirlpool washer-dryer that you can actually buy today. It washes, rinses, and dries in one continuous operation. And it uses so little soap and water that you can wash your clothes as they become soiled rather than waiting for a large load to accumulate. Now here's something for you homemakers who grow tired of seeing the same kitchen day after day. From a button on the planning center, you can change the entire lighting. For hot days, a cool blue to match the air-conditioned comfort of your Miracle kitchen. For cold, dark, drab days, a warmer tone. Or perhaps you'd like a combination of colors to give it the mood you want. Also built into the planning center is an electronic air purifying system. Now this electronic unit, with no moving parts, draws vapors and grease from cooking into the chamber where the impurities are removed and destroyed. And now, believe it or not, the floor is automatically cleaned too, just by pressing a button. What you see coming out of the wall is a self-propelled floor cleaner. It's completely self-contained, and it can be directed to any part of the kitchen. This floor cleaner is operated by a self-charging battery. It controls itself by sensing an electrical path in the floor. As it passes over the floor, it vacuums up loose particles. And if the floor needs washing, the floor cleaner will wash it with a rotary brush scrubbing action. It will follow up washing with a thorough rinsing. And when the entire job is done, the floor cleaner returns to its location beneath the cabinet where it empties the waste and is automatically recharged to be ready for the next operation. Yes, in the RCA Whirlpool Miracle Kitchen, the things women don't like to do are done automatically. Of course, you can't buy this kitchen for your home right now, because this is a laboratory of kitchen ideas for the future. But all of the RCA Whirlpool appliances of today give you the advanced styling and engineering of tomorrow. Now, we hope you've enjoyed our little show, and we hope you'll tell all of your friends about it. And tell them, too, about this wonderful new world of push-button cooking, cleaning, and homemaking.
You're watching Sleepcore. Pleasant dreams.
When Disneyland opened in 1955, Tomorrowland, the world of the future, seemed more science fiction than actual fact. Even today's household word astronaut had not yet been coined. When the 1960s arrived, the world of today began to catch up with Disneyland's world of tomorrow. So Walt Disney and our Imagineering department began to create an all-new Tomorrowland. And here it is today in Disneyland. On the gala day it opened, Tomorrowland's concept and spirit were symbolized by these dedication words from Walt Disney. Tomorrowland, a vista into a world of wondrous ideas signifying man's achievements. A step into the future with predictions of constructive things to come.
It was a news cameraman's field day, and they used every vantage point to cover the grand opening activities. Mickey was dressed for the occasion, and although he never got off the ground, this spaceman did. This is one ride you won't find in your ticket book today. But remember, this is Tomorrowland. And who knows, nothing's impossible at Disneyland. see it all is to ride the Wedway People Mover. These vehicles never stop moving, even while passengers board and disembark from a rotating platform. Just beyond the People Mover station is the new mural featuring old Mr. Energy himself. The People Mover is no mere amusement ride. It was designed for intermediate speed transportation within cities. The cars have no motors. Power is supplied from a series of motors embedded in the track, so no single car can ever break down and cause a rush hour traffic jam. Someday a system like this may even pass through the downtown buildings in your community, just as it travels through Tomorrowland's pavilions today. Tomorrowland is not just the realm of outer space. One of the most unusual new attractions is the adventure through inner space. A true-life scientific adventure into the world of atoms and molecules. These cars are called atommobiles. Aboard them, Disneyland guests ride through a giant microscope and experience the sensation of shrinking as they explore the vast universe inside a snowflake. Stop, or rather the next sight on this transportation system that never stops, is inside the character shop. It's the modern way to window shop. People Mover, you can preview every attraction in Tomorrowland, and then come back later to see the whole show. Here's one you won't want to miss: Flight to the Moon. In the Mission Control Center, you can watch a rocket take off on a trip to outer space. Inside the cabin of the rocket ship, you'll experience the thrills of a moon flight without any of the danger. There's a screen below to show the blast-off and to see where you've been. Another screen above shows where you're going. Destination, the moon. The flight to the moon takes place sometime in the future, when travel to outer space will be an everyday adventure. In the Mission Control Center, with telescopic cameras and special electronic equipment, the audio animatronic crew can even show you a scientific team exploring the surface of the moon.
Hello. Welcome to the moon. We're up near the rim of a good-sized crater on a geological survey. I've been taking pictures of the area. And these men are collecting rock samples and recording a description of each one. As you can see, it isn't easy to work in these spacesuits, but we couldn't survive without them out here. For example, this faceplate is all there is between me and an absolute vacuum. If it suddenly popped out, my blood would literally boil. We carry our air in these backpacks, and our suits are temperature controlled. In fact, they're the latest thing in moon fashions. But enough of that. Now let's look at the moon. Out on the plain there, you can see one of our moon bases. Most of the living quarters and laboratories have to be underground for protection from radiation and meteorites. Of course, the moon does have its advantages too. For instance, it's a perfect observatory because there's no air. Also, gravity is only 1/6 that of Earth, and that has some very interesting effects. I know my kids back home would sure get a kick out of that. And that's not all. Watch this.
Back on Earth, passengers aboard the People Mover continue their tour. One of the hit shows of the New York World's Fair is now in its new home in Tomorrowland, the Carousel of Progress. Like a carousel, the audience rides, while the stages in this theater stand still.
Man has a dream, and that's the start. He follows his dream with mind and heart. And when it becomes a reality, it's a dream come true for you and me. So there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, shining at the end of every day. There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, just a dream away.
This audio animatronic show is a 4-act play that tells the story of progress through electricity from the turn of the century to the present day.
There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, shining at the end of every day. There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow's just a dream away.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, just a dream away.
As the song says, there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. And in the Carousel of Progress, you can get a view of tomorrow, a model city of the future. It's based on a concept developed by Walt Disney for a community he called Epcot, Experimental Prototype City of Tomorrow. Realistic to the smallest detail, this animated model is a living blueprint of new ideas and systems for future cities. The concept for Epcot is one part of Walt Disney's master plan for the future Disney World in Florida. The city of tomorrow, possible today with the technology and imagination of American industry.
You're watching Sleepcore, media for insomnia.
How would you describe the impact of the invention of the printing press? Give us some instances of what happened as a consequence of this.
It created almost overnight. It created what we call a nationalism. What in fact, effect was a public. The old manuscript forms were not sufficiently powerful instruments of technology to create publics in the sense that print was able to do. Unified, homogeneous reading publics. Everything that we prize in our Western world in matters of individualism and separatism and of unique point of view, private judgment, all those factors are highly favored by the printed word and not really favored by other forms of culture like radio or earlier even by manuscript. But this stepping up of the fragmented, the private, the individual, the private judgment, the point of view, in fact, our whole vocabularies underwent huge change with the arrival of such technology.
Yes. Could I ask you now about the technology which, on your view, is superseding it and which is having its own effect on our lives, comparable with, but of course entirely different in kind to the Gutenberg technology.
The Gutenberg technology was mechanical to an extreme degree. In fact, it originated a good deal of the later mechanical revolution, assembly line style, and the fragmentation of operations and functions as the very rationale of industrialization.
Yes.
This fragmentation had begun much earlier with after the hunter and the food gatherers with Neolithic man. I suppose in an extreme way one might say that Gutenberg was the last phase of the Neolithic revolution. Gutenberg plus the industrial revolution that followed was a pushing of specialism that came in with the Neolithic man, the agrarian revolution, a pushing of specialism all the way, and then suddenly We encounter the electric or electromagnetism, which seems to have a totally different principle, is, for some people feel, an extension of our nervous system, not an extension of merely of our bodies. If the wheel is an extension of feet and tools of hands, back, arms, the electromagnetism seems to be in its technological manifestations an extension of our nerves and becomes mainly an information system. It is above all a feedback or looped system. The peculiarity, you see, after the age of the wheel, you suddenly encounter the age of the circuit. The wheel pushed to an extreme suddenly acquires opposite characteristics. This seems to happen with a good many technologies, that if they get pushed to a very distant point, they reverse their characteristics.
What difference is the electric technology making to our interest in content, in what the medium actually says?
It's a very complex business, I'm sure, but one of the effects of switching over to circuitry from mechanical moving parts and wheels is an enormous increase in the amount of information that is moving. You cannot cope with vast amounts of information in the old fragmentary classified patterns. You tend to go looking for mythic and structural forms in order to manage such complex data and moving at very high speed. So the electric engineers often speak of pattern recognition as a normal need of people processing data electrically and by computers and so on. Need for pattern recognition. It's a need which the poets foresaw a century ago in their drive back to mythic forms of organizing experience.
Well, here we are, a couple of archaic literate men, Gutenberg men, talking on the television. What is the audience getting from this? Is it listening to what we're saying, or is it feeling the impact of a new electric medium?
There is a book called Is Anybody Listening? It's what worries the advertising man a great deal. The idea of feedback, of being involved in one's, participating in one's own audience participation, is a natural product of this circuitry. Everything under electric conditions is looped. You become folded over into yourself, into your image of yourself changes completely.
In your other book, the more recent one, where you, Understanding Media, where you go into all this, you use as a kind of slogan, I think, the expression, the medium is the message. Would you like to illuminate that?
I think it is more satisfactory to say that any medium, be it radio or be it wheel, tends to create a completely new human environment. The human environment is, as such, tends to have a kind of invisible character about it. The unawareness of the environmental is compensated for by some attention to the content of the environment. The environment as merely a set of ground rules and as a kind of overall enveloping force gets very little recognition as a form, except from the artist. I think our arts, if you look at them in this connection, do throw quite a lot of light on environments. The artist is usually engaged in somewhat excitedly explaining to people the character of new environments and new strategies of culture necessary to cope with them. Blake is an extreme case of a man who was absolutely panicked by the kind of new environment that he saw forming around him under the auspices of Newton and Locke and industrialism. He thought it was going to smash the unity of the imaginative and sensory life all to bits. But the artist, what he was insisting upon in his own lifetime became quite a popular and widespread movement later on.
Can I return to television? Because here we are, where whoever's listening to us is also undergoing the impact of television at the moment. On your view, they're all deceiving themselves insofar as they're paying attention to what we're saying, because what's going on is a medium which is in itself the image that they ought to be concerning themselves with.
The medium of television has many characteristics which have been unheeded. Mostly it is seen under the aspect of movie form. The TV camera does not have a shutter, does not take pictures. It handles, picks up, as radio picks up, the TV camera picks up its environment, handles it, scans it, and the effect of the TV image is iconic. in the sense that it shapes things by contours rather than by little snapshots.
Now, this is one of the words that you use a good deal, iconic. I think we'd better be clear what you mean by it.
I think of it, again, to tie in with Blake, his whole insistence upon the engraved, the highly patterned and highly sculptured forms and images. The iconic in that sense is very low in visual quality, very high in tactual quality. Active touch, not cutaneous, but active touch, as the psychologists insist.
You call television a tactile medium?
Iconic medium.
Iconic.
Having much in common with the cartoon, for which it is ideally suited, much more well suited than for pictures.
If you feel that we are going to have to come to terms, or we are coming to terms, much more than typographical man with this kind of instantaneous image, and I'd like now just to ask you about the distinction that you draw between different kinds of media within the electric technology. You call some, such as television, cool, and some, such as radio, hot. Now, what does this mean?
It has to do with the slang phrase, the hot and the cool, which puzzles many people. The way it's used in slang reverses the meaning of cool. Cool in the slang form has come to mean involved, deeply participative, deeply engaged. Everything that we had formerly meant by heated argument is now called cool in slang. Cool, though the idea that cool it has reversed its meaning, I think has some bearing on the fact that our culture has shifted a good deal of its stress into a demand that we be more committed, more involved in the situations in which we ordinarily work and experience.
A cool medium is one in which the definition is low and the audience has to work and supply the gaps.
Well, like a cartoon, you see, that you were mentioning before. This is real cool.
Yes.
Whereas jazz, as compared with classical music, has many of these aspects of discontinuity and very much room for fill-in.
Yes.
But where the information or data level is low, the fill-in or participation is high. If you fill the situation with complex data, the opportunity for completion fill-in is less and participation is less.
Now, this reminds me to ask you what I think is pretty important about your work, that if you've got phases like this, which are determined technologically, one can not only speak about the kind of the state of affairs we now have, one can also to some degree do some prediction. Now, I think in understanding media you sometimes write as if we'd got on, if we'd pushed on deeper into electric technology than we actually have. But you do venture some predictions about the kind of life, the kind of quality of feeling that we're going to have with the new alteration in our senses. Could you say something about that?
Well, I remember when I was here 2 years ago, after a long absence, I was quite startled at the upsurge of regional dialects in England as compared with 20 years earlier, and the relative decline of standard and homogeneous English, and the quite proud display of dialects that I had hardly heard before when I lived here. This drive in depth toward a regional depth of culture is a normal feature of electronic forms because of this circuitry that involves us deeper and deeper in ourselves. The French separatists, for example, at the present time in Quebec, are very much related to this new image they have of themselves in television, a depth image.
The vision of the future that your book could leave one with is one in a big brother image, in a sense. You speak of for example, programming cultures. For instance, you say that if the South African scene looks like getting too hot because of an overdose of radio, we program a lot of television, cool them off. This kind of interference with what the typographical literate man calls human rights.
We have never stopped interfering drastically with ourselves by every technology we could latch onto. We have absolutely disrupted
And you think this might
our lives over and over again.
lead us into a kind of electric totalitarianism?
I think no. I think the logic, if unimpeded, the logic of this sort of electric world is stasis.
Yes. And out of this, forgive me for interrupting again.
Yes.
I was going to ask, where do you see, is there a terminus, or should we always go from the thesis of typography to the...
I think if there is a logic, and a hopeful one, that appears in this, it is the dispelling of all unconscious aspects of our lives altogether, that we, in order to live with ourselves in such depth, in such instant feedback situations, we have to understand everything, so that our easygoing lolling about in the lap of the unconscious cannot endure. That we will have to take over the total human environment as an artifact. But it seems to be forced upon us. The need to become completely autonomous and aware of all the consequences of everything we're doing before the consequences occur is where we're heading.